Vegan Werewolf Santa, or Full Moon Over Christmas, a poetic fantasy by Dechen Thurman, for a grandmother. 'Twas the full moon over Christmas Eve, and that really kind of bothered Carl Reeve. It wasn't being away from his family or Christmas. He was used to that. It wasn't being in Berlin. Carl loved Berlin. He loved its streets and its character and its women. Berlin was like New York, but for human beings, and with respect for nature and cleaner water. And Berlin had a pretty good yoga scene, which was why Carl was there. Carl Reeve had come to Berlin for the vegan food, the food that had helped him overcome his craving for fresh meat. The reason Carl was hot and bothered had nothing to do with Christmas, although he didn't care much for Christmas traditions other than the glühwein and the mistletoe. The reason Carl was scratching his silver-studded neck collar and growling this Christmas, despite the amazing yoga class and vegan feast he had enjoyed at Jivamukti Berlin, was because this Christmas was on the full moon. Carl was a werewolf. Werewolves cannot control their transformation on the full moon. Carl was an expert at controlling his transformation. A lesser-known feature of werewolf society is that the elite werewolves pride themselves on how short of a time they spend in pure wolf or hybrid wolf-human form. Every common werewolf must turn into a pure wolf for the entirety of the 3-day full moon cycle. The elder werewolves had perfected the art of self-control to the extent that they only had to be in hybrid state for a few hours at the zenith of the full moon's luminosity. Carl was not the eldest, or even a lichen lord like in the movies. Yet he had found a unique method of restraining his lycanthropic transformation through vegan diet and yoga. The closer to the full moon, the more Carl would stuff himself with savory vegan treats, especially vegan burgers. The more vegan burgers Carl ate, the less time he would become a wolf. The absence of animal products in his gastrointestinal tract reduced the triggers of uncontrollable lupine appetites for the flesh of deer or other living animals. And the Jivamukti yoga practice helped him stay mindful during the transformation so that he could prevent himself from undergoing the blood frenzy of the werewolf, which had reached the public beyond the level of myth into popular cliché. His favorite teacher at Jivamukti Berlin was Julie, who was a master as well of the Kundalini yoga. He liked her because her eyes had courage which she shared without saying anything. His pack instinct respected her discipline and devotion to two different but compatible lineages of yoga. She taught kriyas of breathing and how to focus the gaze in drishti. Julie made Carl push himself beyond his limits, but never judged him based on his performance. Her mantra that night had been from Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Ahimsa Pratishtayam Tat Sanidau Vairatyagaha. Chanting this meant that restraining the cause of violence would suspend the effects of violence in a cyclic pattern of natural events. This mantra had helped him stay off the meat and animal products during the waning crescent cycles of the moon, so that when the waxing gibbous moon approached, he had less himsa, or harmful causes in his blood chemistry. Tonight will be the night, by my Christmas wish, that I will endure the full moon without becoming a werewolf. Vienna has the best vegan burgers in Europe, Carl was thinking to himself. The swing kitchen. But Vienna was filled with vampire hunters and other poachers of the supernatural species. It was the only place more dangerous for his kind after London. And Vienna didn't have Jivamukti yet. Berlin had plenty of famous vampire hunters, as did every German city. But they tended to stick to that and leave the werewolves alone. Carl flexed his fingers, watched the knuckles expand and grow tufts of fur, the digits lengthen and skin grow dark and thick, blood vessels pumping faster and faster. I should have stayed at Jivamukti canteen and eaten another batch of parsnip chips, he cursed to himself. I let myself get too hungry, too close to the zenith, he thought, in between growls and howls. The transformation could not be reversed. The zenith was approaching. Damn, how could I be in this situation? Despite this planning, nature is in control. I was doing just fine for most of the class. Enough vegan food in my belly for the lunar zenith to pass. At the middle, while we did the handstand or upward-facing tree pose, Yuli looked at me a moment and wrinkled her nose. A moment of doubt in my mind, I suppose. I don't know what she thought, or what my pheromone may have told, but she opened a window to let in the night's cold. When the window was opened, the room had been in silence. Who could predict that the gentle sound of sleigh bells could bring violence? It was not just the sounds, but the smell of the beasts, the Christmas reindeer who were attractive to feast. For a werewolf like myself had tried hard and failed to hold back the appetites given to me by the wilds. In this state, at this moment, my transformation began, in the middle of the temple to all things vegan. In stubbornness, I held my yoga pose too long, ignoring my breath that was supposed to be strong. Suddenly, everything that was right seemed so wrong, and I fell to the ground as distant church bells chimed, bing bong. Carl ran from the class, still sweating and half naked. His only relief would be vegan treats fresh baked. His forehead he struck on the staircase's landing, misjudging the height of his body while standing. The blood and pain made it harder to stop his change, the goal no longer to hold back nature, but to get out of range. He slipped on his clothes and shoes from his rucksacks to keep up appearances, but this evening was changing from his triumph to his fears. He crossed the threshold from shoe shelves into the canteen, and then a surprise he had not before seen. Anya and Christian, the founders of Jivamukti Berlin, were well known for loving dogs. They even set up a weekly X-long 2-hour class on a donation basis for a charity that rescued lost dogs. Usually an orange Irish setter slept like a sack next to the couch by the storage of mats. Yet today on Christmas they had brought the whole pack. They are the reason there are no wolves in Ireland. That's what they say about Irish setters. They are keen of smell and fast and loud. Usually, I walk right past them and shower thoroughly with pine tar soap so they don't notice me. But tonight, with lunar zenith approaching and a bit of my blood flowing, there was no way to avoid them. The old one, Avi, dark orange, leapt first at me over a table stacked with yoga books and retreat flyers. Her canine teeth were bared in an instinctive snarl. Coming under the table, following the lead of the elder, was Mimi the white speckled-haired English setter. In seconds, they each had a grip. Avi on my arm, Mimi on my hip. Christian Walter, the owner's eyes were ablaze. Up from his desk, with his arms upraised, he called to his pets, "Mimi! Avi! No! Let go of our guest!" I shook the setters loose with a bit of werewolf force and hurried as quick as I could to the doors. 2 more dogs had appeared, so now there were 4. I had to get someplace where no one could find me. Not a simple task with 4 Irish setters behind me. Outside by the bike racks, I wiped the blood off my face, tried to catch my breath with a little bit of space. Oh, some more vegan yogis coming out of the canteen. I could eat one of them and feel satisfied. Serve them right. No, I am Carl Reeve. I can breathe and concentrate and maintain my form. A ripping, popping sound from the ground made Carl look down and see the furry claws extending his toes outside his torn green Converse sneakers. Damn it, I am losing it. Gonna have to morph into hybrid form at least. I better climb to where no one can see me. Hybrid wolf form is the best for leaping ability at cost to foot speed compared to full wolf. At least I kept my backpack full of street clothes and my ID and money. A first floor windowsill full of flower pots is an easy leap for hybrid wolf Carl. Up and over, the barking of the hounds, the smell of blood in my snout, it's too much. Almost to the roof, and at least I can try to howl away the rage. Vegan werewolf yogi Carl Reeve scratched his way to the roof, surprised by a team of 9 large reindeer. They were harnessed to an ostentatious Gustavian period carved sleigh. Heaped sacks of packages were piled up in the back seat. Wolves love deer meat, and a hybrid wolf has all the tastes of the wolf with the greed and gluttony of a human. These reindeer knew kung fu and were trained to defend the sleigh. Usually they relied on invisibility and guile to peacefully avoid detection and confrontation. But a bloody-nosed, dog-bitten hybrid wolf man was startling and too threatening for the legendary 9 saints of the sleigh. Rudolph opened the attack on Carl with a searing crimson flare from his nose. Not much better was hybrid werewolf super hearing dealing with the thunderous stomping of Donner and Prancer. No surprise Santa's reindeer are shod with electrified brass hooves, Carl was able to observe when Vixen punched him in the back of the left thigh, driving his knee to the ground. Blitzen, true to his name, was head down, charging dead center, ramming his broad and polished mahogany-colored antlers right into my collarbones. My arms spasmed into a crucifix as I stepped up and back onto my left foot with the momentum of the impact on my chest. I should have known more was coming and dodged or rolled, but Dasher timed his double front hoof attack to take me just under the shoulder blades. I somersaulted forward over Comet, whose fur was black and starry with gobs of bright gold. But she adjusted and leapt upward under my hips, buffeting me another 180 degrees of spin with her ebony antlers adorned with golden planetary sigils. These magical reindeers were really kicking my werewolf butt, I thought, as Dancer literally kicked me in the butt with her right hind hoof covered in ankle bells. They may have jangled and jingled on me a bit more. I can't recall who did what to me past a certain point. Too many hooves and antlers for one vegan werewolf to deal with, and I didn't really want to hurt them back. But the law of survival says, don't go down under a herd's hooves. Stay on your feet and give as good as you get, or give back even better. A heavy cloud passed away from the moon for the first time that night. The pure luminescence of the Christmas moon shone upon my vegan fur. The reindeer of Santa were extra strong on Christmas Eve. But the full moon at the zenith of the sky gave me the speed and the power to fight back. I wrestled Cupid to the ground and prepared to tear her notorious heart out of her chest with my fangs. She twisted and bucked with determined resistance and a smidge of fear. The other 8 backed away instinctually at the surge of ferocity. In that moment, eye to eye with Cupid, the most beautiful 5th reindeer of Santa's Saints of the Sleigh. Her eyes were just like Yuli's from Jivamukti Berlin. They were eyes of kindness and mindful soul realization. The memory of that kind Kundalini-style yoga teacher gave me the emotional and mental space to make a different choice. Instead of her heart, I tore away Cupid's leashes, which connected her to the sleigh. Without the link to the magical sleigh, she fell into the sky and started to fly away. I spun around and sought my next prey. I swiped at their harnesses, their icons of human servitude. I severed their reins so they could spit out the bits. 7 more of them I freed, cutting them loose from Santa's domination with lycanthropic speed. In 1s and 2s they flew from the roof. The last was little Rudolph, the most dependent on Santa. His once proud, flaring red nose was barely flickering now like an old Christmas tree light past its prime. My claws flashed in the red shine and tore away his link to the sleigh. Unlike the others, he tried to stay, but after a minute of staring him down, he blinked and looked up at the twinkles in the sky. Up above the clouds were the other 8 reindeer playing their games. Just like the song says, I reckoned, he must join them despite their eternal rejection. "What have you done, my werewolf son?" boomed a voice behind me as my shoulder was grabbed. Before I could spit, I spun around and bit, and to my surprise, I saw Santa's eyes open wide. The light of the full moon at zenith was clear in his pupils, which grew and shrank as the transformation started to take hold of Saint Nick. His feet were first, and from the black boots, gray and brown toenail claws burst. And then came his elbows, extending all the way through his red and white sleeves. His hat seemed to shrink as his head grew large and wide, laughing looping snout, smiling open with pride. His great belly stretched tight as he reached his full height. Then his giant furry hands clapped with delight when his silver coat buttons strained at their snaps. Despite the sudden shift in the size of his grimace, the magic red cap stayed in its white fluffy place as the werewolf Santa breathed hot mist in my face. What could I possibly say? Or should I even try? These questions I wondered as he looked to the sky, and before I could speak, Werewolf Santa did cry, "Howl! Howl! Howl!" His saintly presence on Christmas Eve was amplified by lycanthropy on the full moon. A Yuletide lichen, epically jolly and fat, with a beer barrel chest and a wide belly that broke his silver buckled belt with a snap. And on the top of his head, a little red and white cap. Hol, 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 ho, ho, ho. And next to us, a trembling Rudolph, his nose neither red nor bright, his antlers crossed, knees trembling with fright. his father Santa still near and clearly in good cheer, but transformed to the wolf, the primal enemy of deer. Santa reached with his claws and gently scratched Rudy's scalp, and stretched his neck towards his fangs as he purred out a yelp. Then he kissed him so gently, you'd hardly even know it, licked the tears off his face so the fur could not show it, and more quickly and gently than ever I had seen, from reindeer to wolf little Rudolph did morph tween. As a wolf he was skinny, shy, and quite tiny, but the feature he retained was the nose red and shiny. Santa, now that you are a wolf in your essence, how will you deliver your sleigh full of presents? The voice that asked this was my Kundalini Jivamukti hybrid yoga teacher, Yuli, who wore a white turban with a halo most holy. She had come to the roof, guided by divine light, and in the presence of 3 wolves, she revealed no mortal fright. To fly the sleigh with magic reindeer, Werewolf Santa replied, I need 8 or more. But with vegan lichens on full moon, I only need 4. I turned to Yuli, and to my surprise, what we saw was that we looked at each other through third eyes. In the movies, the blessing of sacred wolf is given through a bite or a kiss. Yet in Kundalini Yoga, this transformation is powered only by bliss. So I took a deep breath from the belly to the chest, and I relaxed my mind and let the heart do the rest. Yuli was not afraid and stood relaxed and open in front of me. She had taught me to do the same at the start of her Jivamukti class. The spirits of Christmas within us did glow. The colors of our chakra points began to show, all the hues and sounds of the emotional rainbow. First smelled the red, Rudolph's glowing wolf nose sniffing our butts. Then orange and yellow ignited from the navel and pelvis, sights and tastes from angelic to hellish. And at the heart center sparkled a deep, holy green. As Vegan Werewolf Santa stood in between, a wreath of pine branches held at the chest, bursting with pine cones, holly berries, and the rest. The throat chakra sounded blue with the vibrations hue of the starry night, sparkling with midwinter dew. At last, but not least, the bliss center burpled. The experience beyond I remembered as purple. And standing in front of me, proud as a house, was Yuli, the werewolf Kundalini Jivamukti yoga teacher, holding a little mouse. She placed the little fellow evenly on the ground. From somewhere, a vegan energy ball she had found. So she dropped it right into the merry rodent's hands. And with Carl and Rudolph's help, she followed Santa's commands. Yoke your spirit to my sleigh with all your Christmas cheer, as we leap from the rooftop without falling from fear. Our first stop in Grunewald is a friend I hold dear. You pull the sleigh and I laugh and steer. The yoga school below quickly shrank to a spot as the first flight of vegan Christmas wolves flew up like a shot, and the forest leaf-colored Santa wolf laughed like a loon as the 4 of us sailed across the full moon. Around Alexanderplatz we did sail, stars in our eyes and wind in our tails. And over the lakes of Grunewald did we fly, until a tall house caught Santa Wolf's eye. We slowed down the sleigh while the moon was cloud-covered, and outside a third-floor window we hovered. In the window, the light was dim. A single candlestick stood on the rim. Careful as a ninja, Santa opened the lock and, shrinking in size, walked through the window. Then he drew the curtains, and I heard him speak the name Ilsa. The rest of the conversation not heard through the whispers. And below us we heard the jingle of bells and the barking of Irish setters as well. In the backyard of Castle Walter were playing Avi and Mimi, and reindeers of the sleigh, Prancer and Dancer, and Blitzen and Donner. There was even a new Terminator robot reindeer whose name was John Connor. Comet soared up to us with a jovial attitude and bowed to the wolf team on the sleigh with her gratitude. Thanks for giving us the night off, or should I say the year. And back to her games she flew in good cheer. Then Santa opened the window with light pouring through. In his hands were plates of vegan pancakes, which he told us were made for you. We ate like vegan wolves, licked clean the dishes. Then we flew round the world to grant kids vegan wishes. All children are vegan and have no harm in their hearts. Who knows why some lose it, or why harming animals starts? To be normal? To be a species apart? To deplete the soil where global warming starts? Or maybe because we think we are so smart? The lesson of this Christmas full moon is clear. To make a new world, we must conquer fear of vegans, of animals, of talking about difficult things. Let every being live. Let every life form sing. Merry Vegan Christmas and a happy full moon. Let freedom ring!